The European Commission is due to announce a wide-ranging package of counter-terrorism measures later today, following recent attacks in Europe. Speaking to the BBC, the EU's Security Commissioner, Julian King, said one crucial element of the strategy was to fight the spread of extremism on the internet.
Working with the internet companies, we are trying to get better at spotting and taking down that material. So we've now said to the internet companies, you need to do more. You need to help us by using your technological know-how, automated means, to stop this stuff going up in the first place. And we've said they've got until the end of this year to show us that they are making the necessary efforts. If not, we reserve the right at a European level to pursue legislation.
Mr. King said that Europol held a list of 8,000 Islamist fighters who could potentially return from Syria and Iraq. He said it was vital that intelligence sharing between the UK and the EU should continue after Britain leaves the European Union.
Both sides, both the EU27 and the British government, have now said that this is an area where they think there's an unconditional interest in pursuing cooperation, which I think is a signal that perhaps unlike some other issues, this isn't something that you trade or negotiate over. Because these threats are so important, it is vitally important that we find ways of continuing the cooperation.
Meanwhile, the head of MI5, Andrew Parker, has said that the UK faces an intense challenge from terrorism. He said his service is currently handling 500 operations involving 3,000 individuals and had foiled 20 attacks over the past 4 years.
We've seen a dramatic upshift in threat this year. It's at the highest tempo I've seen in my 34-year career. Today, there is more terrorist activity. It's coming at us more quickly, and it can be harder to detect.
Well, we're joined now by Olivier Guita, a security expert and managing director at Global Strat. Hello again, Olivier.
Good afternoon to you.
Spell out the threat. Where's it coming from?
Look, for the time being, the major threat is coming from home. And what I can tell you is security services have been focused all over Europe for returning jihadists, but for now we haven't seen many come back and many preparing attacks. Whether we've seen a lot more of people that were followed and monitored by security services at one point in time that carried out attacks against their homeland.
All right, explain more of that. What you're saying is, we know some people are returning. We have the capacity not to let them in, but the threat there is not as great as the people who are already here.
Exactly. The issue that we have is since 2014, Islamic State had made a clear choice in its strategy to call on their Westerner followers to stay at home and attack the homeland. So the slew of attacks that we've seen in the past 2 years over in Europe are, as you've seen, very unsophisticated, low cost, and that are following a modus operandi that is very difficult for security services to thwart.
How do they try and thwart this then?
They have to go back to basics, which is human intelligence and preventing it from the inside, if you will. One of the plots that was foiled at Whitehall was due to the fact that people close to the terrorist had warned the security services that this man was on the verge of preparing an attack. If it's not for this kind of human intelligence, it's extremely difficult with the limited means of the security services that they have in terms of monitoring and following people to get it right all the time.
I'm guessing that's the issue, isn't it? If they've prevented 7 attacks, then at least 7 people have spoken to people they shouldn't have spoken to, telling them they're about to carry out an attack. And those people that they've talked to have talked to the security services. So that's the key, isn't it?
Yes, but in those cases that those attacks were thwarted, you have to remember that also a big issue would be electronic intelligence and information gathered through tapping with help of the US as well to get information from intel of other services. So it's a mix. I mean, it has to be a clear balance between the human intelligence and the electronic intelligence. And unfortunately, as of now, both the US and the UK had focused so much on electronic intelligence.
To the best of your knowledge, and it'll have to be a guess, how many people in the UK are the security services trying to follow and tag and monitor their emails and their phone calls and listen in to them? How many people?
What we can guess is through the number of people that you need to man such an operation. You need about 30 people from the services to monitor just one guy. So if you look at the number of people working for MI5, you can guess that it should be around between 50 and 100 that they can follow at one point in time.
But
and
we know 6,000 people when they come back.
Exactly, and we know that there are 3,000 dangerous potential jihadists already in the UK.